And again, everyone at home was like, yay, like, that's it, like, beta America jayega, and all that kind of stuff. And I felt sick. I was like, I knew I'd reached a crossroad. Like you said, right? Like when you're standing at the edge of a cliff, I knew that if I take this promotion, it's gonna be harder to turn back, because obviously more money, you get more involved there, like the leadership is investing in you and you don't want to get out of that. But my heart said no. And my heart was like, don't do it. My heart was like, just no. And I remember I had one of those, like Abhinav mentioned, those creative cocoon moments where I just closed everything, whatever people were saying, for good or bad, but I trusted myself, and I rejected the promotion. That's when I decided I feel like that was my moment when I jumped off the cliff. From there was no looking back. There was no 50-50. I think I can do this. I think I can do that. Because at that moment, it was either go this way or go your own way.
All right, viewers and listeners, welcome to yet another episode of The Right Now Show. And it will be a cliche if I said that today is another exciting episode of The Right Now Show. And it would be cliche to say cliche. But I'm like so happy that we are having this episode, because this is a conversation that I really wanted to have with someone like really creative and someone who's very approachable. And it couldn't have been anyone else. It couldn't have been any better than my best buddy himself, who is on the show today. So without any further ado, I'll let Abhinandan introduce.
Bro, who's that, bro?
Wait, no, I don't want to give out names so fast. So without any further ado, I will pass on to Abhinandan to give a formal introduction of that person.
This is my second formal introduction of a very close buddy, my roommate. In the first year of my undergraduation. Okay, without wasting time, on to this person. Armed with a rare combination of physics and management, this person went on to meet the corporate world and worked across continents in the field of business strategy. Years into this crazy, busy business life, he found his creative calling in theatre, writing, and filmmaking. A dreamer by the day, storyteller by birth, explorer by the year, and a filmmaker by destiny. We have the one and only Prakrit Kamra.
Oh my god, guys. I swear, that's the best introduction I've ever gotten. Thank you so much. And I'm super happy to be on your show today. It's obviously it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's also an honor. So thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure,
The
brother.
honor is ours.
All right, let's go.
So Prakrit and I have known each other since I think 8 years now, and it was like pretty amazing. We were roommates, we were classmates, we were batchmates, and after that we have been in touch for all the while. Touch wood. Once in a while, Prakrit goes into his creative cocoon, so understandable, and I understand it more than anyone. So knowing him, seeing his journey, he was one of those studious guys in the class. In fact, he was like our batch gold medalist.
You had to say that.
Yeah, I had to say that. It's an important thing. And then going on to start working with the corporate, and not very few people start off with strategy, and which he did. And there was a joke in our MBA times that people going into corporate jobs, and where do you want to work, and they say strategy. And I think this guy was the one who kind of he kind of proved that it's not a joke. Even starters can get into strategy and things like that.
So in your eyes, I will always be a joke, but I think that's the best thing about being best friends. No matter what we do, we're always going to be a joke to each other. So yeah.
That's true.
Such a strategic answer.
You can say that for anything. And I could say let's go right, not left. And you can be like, oh, what a strategic answer. So,
yeah. So Prakrit, since you have been starting to take writing as a very serious profession, and you want to get into it full time, and I see you kind of burning your midnight oil right now to get into that profession and like get into a proper writing university. So how did your journey begin as such, and just take us through the whole process and your journey, and how you are kind of looking to find your creative voice.
Okay, that's a tough question, but it's a good one. So let's see if I can do some justice to it. I think our creative journey starts the day we're born. Another cliched answer, but I think you have those moments in life where you kind of realize that like those moments are so important that you'll never forget them, and you'll know when you have those moments. So for me, I'll talk about two of those moments today. The first moment was I was in grade 4, I think, and back then I was living in Canada. I had friends, but it's kind of difficult when you're an immigrant kid growing up, and I don't know. So somehow I got involved into theater, and I don't know how. Like I think I probably got pushed by my parents or something, and when I stepped out onto the stage for the first time, I felt this insane sense of freedom because I wasn't myself. I was this character. And I remember even in grade 4, I was playing this really old man. And like in practices, I'd been okay. I think I'd been okay. But on stage, I felt free. Like all of a sudden, I started hobbling. A funny anecdote here. This would repeat a couple of years later when Abhinav and we acted together on stage. And Abhinav was so serious about his role that he actually broke his foot so that he could play the role better. No, I'm kidding. He broke it by accident, but it was really funny. But anyway, so on the stage, I started hobbling. I hadn't broken my foot, and that wasn't a part of my routine. And for a grade 4 kid, like I felt like I was an old man. And that empowerment, that feeling of freedom of being on stage and just being creative on this role in the moment, that was not on the script. It was something I was doing on my own, and like I loved it, and I've loved theater ever since. So that was the first moment when I realized how beautiful it is to express yourself creatively, especially like when you've got so many eyes on you, right? So because then no pressure, but I felt alive, and I think that was an important moment. That was the first moment. And then the second moment was probably 20 years later. So, okay, so for this one, I was in Atlanta. I was at one of these corporate strategy roles. And, like the three of us, we come from a small university, which is very good, but doesn't market itself. So most employers haven't even heard of it. And they're like, what? Where is that? And when you tell them it's like in a small village, they're like, yeah, sure. So, we were like, getting into the corporate world is always it's tough because you don't have that brand strength of your MBA. Though the education is good, you don't have that brand strength, and you have to start from maybe belower than where people with the same skill level would, right? So I worked really hard at my first job to get into strategy, to get into a good position, and then the second job was at a Fortune 500 company. I was at headquarters in the city of Atlanta. And the thing was, I was working with the smartest guys and girls from across the world, because there were people from Harvard, there were people from Stanford, Booth, Wharton, all the fancy MBAs, they were all there. And, I was like, yeah, I've finally reached that place where I wanted to be since I was doing MBA. And of course, that meant a lot of hours, and I was working really hard. And, it was an interesting time because I was only working. I'd put on quite a bit of weight, and that's literally all I was doing. I was just working. And I remember that, so it was late, I think it was in October, late night in October. I was the last guy left on our floor. And so the strategy team I worked for, we had a restricted floor, which means people couldn't get there. So, we used to feel cool, like, I have an ID, and I can go onto a restricted floor. Which I think is just a cool way of making people work harder, but it really doesn't mean much. But anyway, so I was on this floor, right, and I was the last one. I think it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I've been working the whole day. It definitely been a 14-hour day, and I was super tired. But And I'd completed something, and like I kind of loosened my tie, like pulled my shirt out a little bit. I went out, and our office was really, really cool. So you could see the entire downtown, and American cities, they have like beautiful downtowns with amazing lighting. Like all, and so Atlanta has a couple of really nice. So Coca-Cola started there. Who else started there? There are like a bunch of companies, not remembering now, but they have really nice buildings, and from our building you could see all of that. So anyways, all this restricted 19th floor, here I am, tie loose, and I walk up to the window and I kind of like soak it all in, thinking, this is my Mike Ross moment, right? Like, guy who wasn't supposed to be here, I'm finally here. And like I was there, I was just standing there, and I think I was nearly 25, so perfect time for quarter life crisis. So anyways, I was standing there looking at these beautiful lights of downtown and thinking that I've made it. I'm working with the brightest guys. I'm at a Fortune 500 company where I'm on the, like I think a couple of days before that, I was told that I'm on like I'm on like an accelerated path. I was going to be made a manager soon if I kept working the way I was. And I mean, I thought I would feel amazing. I thought I'd feel amazing, but it didn't happen. I felt nothing. I was just standing there and I was like, this feeling isn't coming, it isn't coming, it isn't coming. And that's like, that hit me. I should have been happy, but I wasn't. And yeah, I mean, like, I definitely crossed a milestone, right? Like, coming from a small university, making it up here, and enjoying this view, doing whatever. Like, I definitely crossed a milestone in my life, but I didn't feel anything. And I knew that night. I probably didn't admit it to myself for like a couple of weeks after that, but I knew that something wasn't right. Because I should have felt something like that first moment. I should have felt that freedom. I should have felt that joy. I should have felt alive, but I didn't. I felt tired and dead, and I think that night I walked home, and it was like definitely a couple of miles, but I knew that something just wasn't right. So anyway, so that was the second important moment in my life, because I realized that something wasn't right. And then after that started this incredible journey. It was good at times, it was tough at times, I think there's a famous line somewhere. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Because I felt like, I'm going to find out what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. But that's when I realized I needed to introspect. And then what I started doing was I started revisiting my life from like the day I could remember. Because the question hit me that if not this, then what? Like, if this isn't what I want to do, what do I want to do? And that's a really good question to ask, but it's also a really tough question, because if you don't know how to answer that, you're left feeling worthless, or you're left feeling like, I don't know what I want. And I think a lot of us, especially who've grown up in India where your education options are few, means you've only tried science or commerce, and there are like a million fields you could get into, right? You start questioning all your decisions and you don't know where you want to be. So, and you start thinking like, what have I been doing with my life? And I think like, if anyone's been through a quarter life crisis, these are the kind of questions that you probably feel. So anyways, I took that excuse to travel extensively. I abused my work from home. So my job was partly in India, partly in the US. Since my team was in the US, when I was in India, I didn't have an office. So I worked from Delhi, I worked from Goa, as you guys know how workations are. I remember you had an earlier podcast on that. So
Yes.
so workation, but that was not during COVID times. That was in like 2018, late 2018 or something. I think it was one of those times I randomly bumped into Abhinandan in Gokarna, which is another story.
Yeah. Amazing.
I'm just gonna take a side road here. So my friend Yogesh and I, we were in Gokarna, which is a beautiful coastal town in Karnataka, and we were just chilling there. Yogesh was bored out of his mind, and then one day we're just looking and we're like, man, is that Abhinandan? And imagine like we just bumped into like our best friend, and he didn't even tell us he was gonna be there. I think Mukunda was there as well, who was on the show before this. So it was an amazing day. So anyways, getting back to the highway. of my life. So anyway, where was I? Yeah, so I was figuring stuff out, right? And I realized that I needed to go back to times when I felt the happiest because I was evaluating different professions. Now, like Abhinav said, I was pretty studious in school, so I made Excel sheets and sheets. Like they were all linked with like different careers I could take, what I could do. You know, I built like this insane data map out, but it wasn't working. And somewhere I realized that I just need to find those moments when I was super happy. And those were the moments when I knew, like, when I would feel something, right? Like when I'd feel alive. I realized that those are the moments that would help me define what I wanted to do. So I revisited my life, and when I did that, something amazing happened. So I remembered this moment that I had, the earlier one when I was on stage for the first time, and that incredible thrill of like taking flight creatively. And then I remembered every time I'd been on stage, it had been like that. Every time, and I mean, I've been involved with theatre in multiple ways. I'm a decent actor, but I wouldn't say I'm the best actor. I loved writing. Watching my writing come out on stage, watching me write my own lines and then perform that, it was incredible. And then I started questioning all my decisions. I was like, why did I take physics? I went back and I was like, yeah, my friends were taking science, and my parents were like, and not just my parents, everyone is like, oh, the smart kids take science. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to take science because smart kids do that. But the next decision, when I was like looking for a college major, why did I take physics over chemistry, math, or chemistry and math were the other options, or computer science?
Commerce.
Commerce. Yeah, no, so I picked physics because it's the only thing that had a story.
Because it was smarter than other sciences.
I wish it was smarter than
No.
other sciences.
But this guy, I remember after the first test, he came and he was like, bro, I just don't want physics. I want to do commerce.
That's true.
You
That's
remember
true.
Prakrit?
That was the first test because it felt just like school. I was running away from science in school where I never studied, and I thought, oh, college is gonna be chill. And then I'm like, it looks like I went from grade 12 to grade 13. It's just harder, and I don't know shit. So
Yeah, especially the college maths and I think science also. Like it's a crazy leap. It's almost like there are steps still here, and then suddenly there is a huge block of empty stairs. You just have to jump top.
I would have to study 2-3 hours a night, and I'd get 70-80%, no big deal in school. Here, I studied weeks and I'd get 50% remedial classes. And I was like, dude, what the hell? I'm putting more effort, getting less marks. This isn't working. So I remember I went to
I
Abhinandan.
remember Prakrit, exam time, used to go. Suddenly, that exam time, like 3-4 days, Prakrit is be like, where's Prakrit? Everyone would be searching for him, and he would be like busy studying somewhere. Like, he'll go in the morning, he'll come back only in the night. So you could just see him, like, being the roommates. We all were like, where is he?
He's always like that before exams. Before exams, he's in that some mad zone, God knows what. But he's like, I don't see anything. I just know my books. That's it. And he'll be in some corner of the world, God knows. You just can't find him. And after exam, he'll be like, hey, bro, what's up? And I'm like, bloody, where were you, man, all this while?
Well, no. So
He became Mad Max Fury.
no, the story behind that is because, I'd never been in remedial classes. I'd like always gotten away with studying late at night. But here I was putting all these hours and not getting, like, I was just passing, and all my teachers were like, remedial classes, backward. And I'd been like, dude, I've never been in the bottom 5 of anything. So, and I remember in remedial classes, the teachers also talk to you slower. 2 + 2 is 4. Like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, oh man, like, where am I? I started working hard for physics, but that was just because I didn't want to be in remedial classes. But yeah, like, the reason I picked physics over the other sciences was because it's the story of our universe. And I knew I didn't want to continue in physics, but by the end of it, I actually liked physics because, like, I'd found a mechanism of studying. I would link everything I knew, like a story. I would, like, draw these crazy mind maps, like, similar to those Excel sheets I was talking about. So you can see a pattern here. So I would draw these crazy mind maps and try to link different things and make one grand story out of it, and I would call it the story of the universe. At least that way it was interesting for me to study. But I was done with physics. I wanted something more creative. I long story short, I thought business would be the right thing to do. And I enjoyed business, especially marketing and strategy, because they're very creative. Marketing allowed me to be creative. Of course, like not as creative as Abhinav, who comes up with like amazing taglines. You should ask him about this line that he made for a specific oil brand. I think he won an award also, but I think that might have been like a Razzie. So,
So
no.
that was yeah, it was a Razzie.
Yeah.
That's where he started his one-liners.
So there was this competition by some oil brand who had come to our school and they'd asked us to write some poems and all. And at the end of it, I wrote, हाथ पे चम्मच है, चम्मच में जीरा, तेल बचाओगे तो मिलेगा हीरा.
What a man.
What the hell? Thank you. Yeah.
Round of applause.
He should be writing
So
this.
I was that student in MBA. Like in a group project, there is like one bright guy who's doing all the work, and there are those few freeloaders. I was the freeloader, and he was the hardworking guy. He knows it. He knows it.
Nah, man. We spent most of those group projects talking about tennis or playing tennis. So I wouldn't trade anything for that. So,
Yeah.
and then like we just come up with random stuff on the final day and it'd be pretty good. So getting back to this story, I realized like the reason I liked strategy was because strategy is bringing all these elements together. It's the story of how a business is run. It's finance, it's HR, it's marketing, it's bringing everything together. And which is why it's a buzzword that's thrown around for everything. Like anyone you talk to in an organization, I work in strategy. So it's also kind of funny that way. But yeah, like, so I realized that like all these decisions that I'd made, they were all linking me back to like everything I did, from the way I studied, to the way I did presentations, to the subjects I took. The decisions I made were about like the decisions I was making was based on stories. I wanted physics because it was a good story. It was a story of the universe. I liked strategy and I wanted to be in strategy because it was a story of a company. And I think I was traveling only on this day. And I remember like one morning I woke up and I was like, I'm a storyteller. The reason I made all these decisions is because I love stories. Like the reason I got my glasses was because, so again, when I was in Canada, initially, I didn't have a lot of friends. So I started reading books and my parents would be like lights out at 8 o'clock, but I used my pocket money to buy a flashlight and I would read. And that it was because I was reading again and again in that dim light that I got my glasses. And I've loved stories. Like I love writing stories. I love being part of stories. I love living stories. I also love Instagram stories. You know how I spam people. So I realized that I'm meant to be like the thing that inspires me, the way I think, the decisions I make, everything I do, it comes down to something or the other. It's related to a story. And
right now you're telling us your story. That's pretty interesting.
Inception right there, huh? So, sorry, Nolan, I didn't mean to kill your idea. But so I realized that, and then, like everything started making sense, and I really felt like I was controlling, maybe everyone doesn't find it, maybe I'm lucky to find it, but I found this pattern throughout my life, that all the decisions I've made, everything I've done, somehow or the other, it's linked to a story. Everything that's happened to me, it's just, and I think everyone's life is like that. It's not just me, but personally, I love telling stories, as you can see. I love being part of stories, and I realized that's what I want to do with my life. I want to write stories, and I want to create stories, and yeah, so that's how I reached that decision that, okay, rather than trying to tell the story of the universe or the story of a business, I want to tell like twisted dark tales of my own and make that my profession. No, I'm kidding. My stories are generally happy. So I was just saying that that's when I realized I wanted to be a storyteller. And then the next phase of my journey, and we can get to that, was deciding exactly which stream, right? Because stories can be told a million ways. There's theater, there's writing, there's filmmaking.
But one more thing, no, Prakrit, I wanted to ask you. I've not asked you when we were speaking, right? Generally in our informal talks, but all of these things, right? And I think everyone has that point where in their lives wherein you kind of think that, look, this is enough. We kind of got to do something that is creative or something, right? And then there's this whole point of where you're standing on the tip of the mountain, and then you have to kind of do the leap of faith, right? So you have to make a choice, and that choice can be really difficult, right? So how did you do that? So I mean, across, and I think there are multiple points in what you told of your story in terms of, one, your corporate career, two, in terms of, it could be even your undergraduation or post graduation, right? That leap of faith, how did you kind of muster that courage? And then did you kind of think like too much in, did you kind of do the whole mind map thing or the whole map thing in terms of when you were doing that, or you were like, okay, fine, this is just my calling, let's kind of just go in all out, and then let's figure out what happens next?
You put that really nicely. Made it easy for me to answer the question. Okay, so what happened was in early 2019, after I'd had all these moments, right? So my company promoted me, made me the youngest manager at their company. And it was a big promotion. Everyone at home was like, oh my god, like this is amazing. And obviously, right? Yeah, that's what your parents, your support system, that's what they'll do. And then what happened was, so I didn't want the promotion. They wanted me to move to Hyderabad. It meant more hours, and initially I told them like I'm not ready, and they were like, no, we want to we want to train you there for a couple of months, then we'll bring you to the US, and then you work here for us, like permanently bring you here. And again, everyone at home was like, yay, like that's it, like beta America jayega and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I felt sick. I was like, I knew I'd reached a crossroad. Like you said, right? Like when you're standing at the edge of a cliff, I knew that if I take this promotion, it's gonna be harder to turn back, because obviously more money, you get more involved there, like the leadership is investing in you and you don't want to get out of that. It's just gonna get harder. And I remember like I spoke to everyone I knew, and everyone told me, dude, you have to take this promotion. Dude, you have to do this. And I felt like it was me against the world. Everyone. And I'm glad it was that way, I'm glad because it came down to me. So my parents, my friends, my relatives, my co-workers, anyone who cared about me told me, and maybe rightfully so, told me, you have to make this decision. You have to take this job. And I couldn't. And at that point, I didn't make a mental map. I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't think, but I felt. And I trusted my heart. Like my head said, dude, do it. You'll get to move to the US and, everything, more money, super fast growth, like you're becoming a trendsetter at this company. You're like going ahead of your peers or whatever. All that stuff is happening. But my heart said no. And my heart was like, don't do it. My heart was like, just no. And I remember I had one of those, like Abhinav mentioned, those creative cocoon moments where I just closed everything, whatever people were saying, for good or bad, but I trusted myself, and I rejected the promotion. Obviously, everyone was shocked, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't want it. Kind of like Jon Snow, I don't want it. So that was my Jon Snow moment. So we had a Mike Ross moment, a Jon Snow moment. Anyways, so a lot of poor jokes. But anyways, that's when I decided I feel like that was my moment when I jumped off the cliff. From there was no looking back. There was no 50-50. I think I can do this. I think I can do that. Because at that moment, it was either go this way or go your own way. And at that moment, I decided that no matter what happens, like I will, I don't know what happens down this route, right? Like it's, like you said, it's jumping off a cliff. You don't know what's going to happen. But I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't try. And I know that, like, the minute I said no to that promotion, I felt so good. I felt so happy. I knew that, like, now my journey has begun. Like, now it's truly begun. Because now I've taken, like, the control of the car and been like, I ain't going right. I'm going this way. Oh, sorry, wrong way. That's left. This is right. But anyways, you get the point. So it was that moment when, like, you know that it's meant for you when you're getting everything you want on this side, everything, right? Like more money, position, respect, blah blah, everyone's happy. Like the way society defines success, you're getting everything along this route. But when you're like, no, that isn't enough for me. For me, success is me being happy. That's when you know, like, this is it. So that was that moment for me.
I think you brought in like a very important point here that sometimes, had you become like filmmakers straight out of college and things like that would have been a totally different thing. But being in a position that you don't want is very important. Like realizing what you really want depends so much on what you really don't want, and
Yeah.
you really don't want to be in that place.
Yeah.
It's not just for like even dreams, even for like relationships and things like that. Like if you reach the point of you, okay, I don't want to be here. That's when your clarity of where you want to be increases, right?
Absolutely. And you get it because you had a very similar moment in your life as well. I think
Yeah.
you were also at a corporate which was in corporate social responsibility. So you were doing really good work, but I think you had that moment where you could have had all of that stuff, but you were like, no, I need to chase my passion. So
Yeah.
those
That
moments,
was, and I think you were there. Obviously, you were the one who was kind of talking to me constantly and guiding me there. So I think we all have those moments, and they're like very important moments.
Yeah.
Uh, which might leave you to the feeling of you might not have all this, like you said, right? Friends happy, family happy, and you have money, etc. But then, what's your calling? Like, are you going to follow your calling or just leave it aside? I think it's like a lot of people just leave it aside and continue on with their corporate career, saying that it's not very practical, it's not very rational.
Yeah.
And like Oscar says in The Office, one of the episodes where he's seeing Pam's art and he's like, I think his boyfriend says that real art takes courage.
Yeah.
So getting into art also, it takes a lot of courage, and it becomes very difficult as you actually like move further on, deeper into your jobs and things like that.
It's basically that the calling is coming, and are you going to pick up the call, or are you going to kind of just see the call and just kind of ignore it?
Yeah.
What analogy, sir?
I've been listening to
Thank
these
you.
kind of analogies since what, it's been nearly 11 years now. But yeah, you're right. You face those decisions every day, and I think that like some ones are more poignant than others, and when it's like this. But I think that the opportunity to be creative, no matter where you are, is with you every day, and I think that like Abhinandan said, it's up to you to pick up that call or not. So you could be doing whatever, right? But
Yeah.
you could be cooking, you could be cleaning. It's literally all I did today. But yeah, like that call, I think yes, there are like those life decisions, those major calls that come maybe once in a couple of years where you have to make a decision. But I think that the opportunity to be creative comes every day, and I think if you're a creative person, it's important that you pick up that call every single day.